Hello guys and girls, and welcome to another episode of Falcon Quick Tips. In this Quick Tips episode, we're going to be focusing on watch lists and the 3-step process. So what I want to firstly start off with is watch lists. Now, as you can see, we have all of the pairs on the right hand side of the screen. And it's very important that on a weekly basis, we have our targeted watch list, which is why you hear me talk about having our top 6 every single week. Sometimes we have a top 10 because we have multiple opportunities, but it's important to understand, especially if you're new coming into Falcon or you may have been in Falcon for a while, to understand that when you have all of these currency pairs and throughout the week, you're going to be focusing on certain opportunities. It's very easy, and I mean, I'm guilty of it as well over the years, is I found myself clicking through all of the opportunities. I would want to see what's happening on Euro Pound, Aussie CAD, Aussie Swiss, etc. I'd literally be flicking through all of the pairs. And then what would happen is I would end up missing opportunities and then looking back and then seeing that set up, and I would see, oh, that looks so clear. I would have got into that, or I would have done this, would have done that. And then what I found that actually broke that and that helped me to focus on good opportunities is having a targeted watch list and then not worrying about what is going on here. And it's exactly why we have our top 6. By having our top 6, I know that I can focus on them, I can forecast them, I understand what structure they're in, I've done my analysis, and I know that these are the pairs that are going to provide me with the best opportunities that are targeted for the week ahead. Now understand that you only need 2 to 3 trades per week. So if you think about it, out of top 6, maybe a couple of more if you have a few wild cards and things that you want to focus on. But even out of that, it's very, very easy to be able to capitalize on 2 to 3 positions for the week, sometimes 4 or 5 if you're slightly more active within the markets, but the opportunity is there. And what I found is that with those opportunities, pretty much every single month, I would say 95 to 98% of the time, I will take trades that are within my top 6. It's very, very rare that I'll have a trade that I looked at was, let's say, a backup or a wild card, and then I take that. Very, very high percentage. And then what that does is it builds me with a lot of confidence and clarity that when I'm doing my other projects, for example, I'm focusing on property and all sorts of other projects, that I'm not thinking, oh, there's opportunity here, there, everywhere. I know that I've got my targeted watch list. I know that I've got my alerts. I know what's happening with those pairs. So by focusing on that, guys and girls, it's going to help massively. Now, I want to take that one step further and give you guys a task and something you can do that is going to really give you even more clarity within the markets. So when we're trading, often we let the week happen and then we do our analysis, let's say on a Sunday. I'm sure you'll agree, you've probably done the same thing. I used to do it as well. But over the last 3 to 4 years, what I started doing as I started to become a better and better trader, I wanted to take my trading to the next level. And I thought about it, what can I do different? What's that extra 1% difference I can do that potentially will give me more clarity in the markets? So I created something called the 3-step process. So I recommend that you take notes on this and write it down. It's just a quick tip, but it's highly effective. A lot of people in Falcon have been doing it, but I wanted to just shed some light on it so you understand fully why and when you can do it. So what I do is I start off on a Friday, and on a Friday, after the market close, of course that's different for whatever time zone you're in, but for us in the UK in the evening, after market close, generally what I do before I go to sleep, so whether that be 11 or 12 o'clock at night, depending on what I'm doing, I always make sure that I spend 30 minutes before I go to sleep. So let's say I'm going to go to sleep at midnight. I will make sure at 11:30, I will then be doing 30 minutes of analysis after the market's closed. What that enables me to do is have a perspective on what I think is ready for the next week ahead. You have to imagine, we've been trading that week. We've seen a lot of price action, a lot of patterns, structures, and had that information thrown at us. It's very easy to hold on to a bias, if you like, or hold on to what you think is going to continue for the week ahead. And for next week, it's very important that you look at it in a clear mind. So what I've found is that the end of that close, the mind is not as clear as what it could be, but it's important that you still focus on it. So what you do on that Friday is that you do your analysis, and you have to remember that if you've taken a trade that week, so let's say for example you was in New Zealand dollar long and then you were still holding that position, if you're taking that trade, you're going to have some sort of emotional invested interest in that pair, especially if you're still holding it. And because you're expecting that to, let's say, over the next week, you're going to hold that position, you may not take a message from the market. You may not realize that the structure is changing because you're either in that pair or you've been in that pair. And it's very easy to just skip over it and say, yep, that looks like that's going to continue. And then you don't really dig deep and analyze it. So what I found is by doing that, it takes it to the next level. And then what I do is my next step, step 2, is on a Saturday. On a Saturday, I fit it in with my routine. So this is perfect for you guys and girls because you can literally fit it in wherever you want throughout your day. I like to do it before I go to the gym, so I have a routine which suits me in the morning. And what I do is I do 30 minutes to an hour before I go to the gym. Now, you don't have to do up to an hour, it's entirely up to you. I just do it because I get carried away and I absolutely love it. So what I do is before I go to the gym, let's say I'm going to the gym at 9 a.m, I'll make sure from 7:45 to 8, I start doing the analysis. And then I know I've ticked that off. I've ticked that off before I go to the gym, and there's 2 goals that I'm going to do in that morning period. Quite often I find that what I saw on Friday is slightly changed on Saturday, and it may not be that I've changed the pairs, for example. It may not mean that I've actually changed my whole watch list. I've just changed my perspective a little bit on those pairs. So I always do that on a Saturday. So already I've got some analysis on a Friday night before I've gone to sleep, and I've slept on it. In the morning I've woken up, before I go to the gym, I've done my analysis, and then it's given me more clarity within the markets. And then I take it one step further. So on Sunday, I then revisit what I've looked at, and then I spend a lot longer. So I generally spend about 2 to 3 hours on a Sunday in the morning doing that analysis for the extra top 6 and focusing on, right, is there anything that's changed? Is there anything that we have that potentially may be a little bit better? And what I found is this, and this is the key thing to the 3-step process. What I had on Friday, sometimes it's changed on Sunday. So what you have to remember is that you're not just analyzing the charts in one frame of mind. And if you only analyze the charts on a Friday after market close, or you only analyze it on a Sunday, you're analyzing it in one frame of mind. And it's very likely over the weekend, you will have different frames of minds. Because what people do wrong is they hold on to a bias too much. And what this does, the 3-step process, it enables you to combat that and remain as neutral as possible. And then what I found is that, let's say, for example, I had dollar yen on a Friday or a Saturday. I found that, okay, I've looked at the pairs, I've analyzed it, I've forecasted it, I've gained more clarity, and I've realized, do you know what? Dollar yen doesn't make it into the watch list, and I'm going to bring in pound dollar, for example. I've often found the trade that I've swapped out will be the one that really takes off and I capitalize on. It's happened time and time and time again that I've taken that out. Let's say I've traded pound dollar instead of dollar yen. Pound dollar goes on to make 5, 6, 7%, and then dollar yen doesn't really, just corrects, doesn't really do anything. But at the beginning of Friday night, if you like, at the beginning of the 3-step process, I thought that dollar yen was the one that I was going to take. I looked at it, it made sense, but then I noticed that over the weekend of doing that 3-step process, I realized, you know what, there's something better here, and I'm going to swap that out. And all that enabled me to do is just have something more targeted, more filtered. And being able to do that as a trader, you need to make sure that you're putting in that 1%, that extra 1%. And if you want to make changes, if you really want to succeed, you have to do things that others aren't doing. Literally, people are waiting on a Sunday, they do a little bit of analysis and they do their trading for the week, and sometimes they get some good trades, and then a lot of the times they don't capitalize on a few trades because they think, oh, I didn't see that when I was looking on Sunday. Well, it's likely not that you just didn't see it, you just need to give yourself more time. And if you think about it, it's not a crazy amount of time, it's sustainable, because I always approach things from a sustainability factor. 30 minutes before you go down to sleep on a Friday, easily done. Anyone can allocate 30 minutes or even 15 minutes before you go to sleep on a Friday. A Saturday, again, whether it's before the gym or before you go to sleep again, whatever fits within your routine, we can allocate 30 minutes to an hour. And then on a Sunday, some of you have a lot more time that you dedicate, and then you can analyze it again. And then, of course, within the Sunday webinar, which is very, very crucial, because what that does is it enables you to do the 3-step process and then compare your analysis in the Sunday webinar to give you even more clarity. So as you can see, by implementing that, and we've seen it already as a true reflection of people's increase of results, it's been absolutely fantastic because those people are getting that more clarity. So if you found yourself that throughout the week you're flicking through all the pairs and that you're not focusing on a targeted watch list, and then you have that fear of missing out and all these other things within the markets and all these emotions, it's likely because you have not done things like this and you don't have as much clarity as what you could. So I highly recommend that you do it as a quick tip, guys and girls, something that you can sustain longer term, and it's going to be a real game changer for you. I cannot wait to see how you get on with it. And to finish off, what you can also do is within your watch list, they've got this flagging feature. So if you found yourself again just kind of flicking through the pairs and you kind of get lost within the markets, what you can actually do here, as you can see, you can flag what pairs you want. So I could just pick a few of these pairs, maybe one more, and now rather than just being tempted to, let's say, flick through all of these different currency pairs, you can literally just focus on these. So a nice little tip, and it's going to be a real game changer for you. So I cannot wait to see how you get on and how much clarity you gain within the markets.